Alright, so last time I recorded this video, basically the audio of the game was way louder than the audio of my mic, but figured out how to fix that, so this is basically take two. I'm going to be going faster on this one because I added a lot of stuff that didn't need to be said in the last one, and also I don't really feel like recording another hour and 54-minute long video. So, basically what I'm going to talk about is the killer powers, just a little bit of stuff about counterplay, how they work, so we can understand them and not be frustrated when they do something that we're not expecting. Because there's some examples, like I remember we played a game against Harry's doctor, and we were getting pissed off because we couldn't draw pallets, and we didn't know why. Thought it was a bug, but apparently it's actually because the doctor's ability does that, and I'll explain that later. So, I'm just gonna go in order. Also, technically, I'm working right now, so I'm gonna have to keep an eye on my inbox and Teams and shit like that while I'm doing this. But I have like nothing to do, so. All right, the trapper to start. Actually, I'm back up. I'll start by explaining, like, most killers have a speed of 115%, which is relative to the survivor's normal running speed, which is what we're going to call 100%. That's 4 meters per second. 115 is 4.6. So I'm going to be referring to normal killers, which are killers that have 115 speed and 32 meters air radius. And then if they're not that, I'm going to be referring to like things like 110, 105, 90, 95. So just bear with me. Keep that in mind. If I say normal killer, it probably means normal speed 115, normal terror radius 32. So, all right, the trapper, normal killer, pretty weak because he has a slow early game, and the reason for that is because his power, the bear traps, he starts with 2 of them, and the other 5 to 7 spawn over the map. So that gives away that you're playing against a trapper pretty much immediately. You look around, you see some traps, it's the trapper. He can put down his traps and on like loops and stuff to try to cut you off, and make it so that when you vault a window or vault a pallet or something, you step in the trap. Yeah, so the issue is, though, he can only carry 2 traps at a time by default, so he has to put them down and then go around, waste time picking up other traps that are already on the ground. So that's why he's kind of weak, and also because once his traps are down, like, he has to waste time to move them. But when a survivor steps in a trap, basically the way it works is you step in a trap, you immediately take health state of damage if you're healthy. So you go immediately from healthy to injured, but it won't put you from injured to down. And then once you're in the trap, you can struggle, which is a very short animation that can occur up to 6 times before you escape the trap, and you have a 16, I believe, % chance of escaping on every struggle attempt. So, you struggle, you make it out on the first one, third one, up to the 6th one. But after you step in it, you make a loud noise notification, and the trapper will probably start coming to you. He can either grab you straight out of the trap or hit you and then pick you up. If he hits you, it'll put you in the down state. If he picks you up, it'll put you on his shoulder. After the traps are activated, after you step in them and he picks you up, he has to go and reset them, or it'll be, people can just walk through them and they won't get, trapped. Also, if a survivor's in a trap, another survivor can come by and perform an interaction that's pretty quick, and it'll immediately let them out on the first try. So if they're working together well, you get countered by that. What else? There's some add-ons that buff the trapper. Like, I can show that if I go to a custom game. But there's an add-on called called the Bloody Coil. That makes it so that if you're healthy and you disarm the trap, which is something you can do, if you see the trap, you notice it, they'll usually try to put it in grass or in a dark area so you don't see it, or in a loop so you don't really have a chance to do anything to it while you're getting chased. If you disable it while you're healthy, you get injured. But if you're injured and you disable it, it does nothing. Or you disarm it, it does nothing. I mean, it makes a loud noise, but that's it. Loud noise notification, but that's it. So something the trapper will often do is put up his traps next to the exit gates. So you're going to want, if at all possible, if you know he has the Bloody Coil, to have an injured person disarm it, which still takes time, and yeah, that person's still injured, but it gives, you know, them a better chance of escaping because the injured person disarms it, healthy person opens the gate, and the healthy person body blocks for the injured person, and both of them get out. Another thing, you can actually walk over a trap if a survivor is in the process of doing the animation of disarming it while you're running over it. So they can actually start disarming it, you run over it, and then they stop disarming, and you both get away. And the reason you both get away is because the trapper cannot step in his own traps. If he steps in his own trap, he gets trapped, and he has to do a little animation of opening it again. And you can make distance. He does have an add-on that stops that, but it's a pretty weak add-on. And a way to identify the Bloody Coil before you even see it, or before you even get injured by it, is if the bar of the trap is red while you're disarming it, that could mean that he has a Bloody Coil, so, you know, you gotta be careful. Wraith, very simple explanation, for the most part. He cloaks very quickly, goes invisible. He starts the game cloaked. When he's invisible, he gets a status effect called Undetectable, which means that he cannot have his aura revealed, which is his outline that shows through walls. He cannot have a terror radius, and he doesn't have a red stain, which shows where he's looking. When he's cloaked, from far away you can't see him at all, and when he gets closer, I think it's 32 meters, you see like a shimmer, like kind of like an outline. When he uncloaks, it takes much longer than cloaking, so you can make some distance while he's uncloaking, and it makes some noise unless he's using the Coxcomb Clapper add-on, which makes him silent. And he once he's fully uncloaked, he gets a speed boost a little bit, only for 1 second, but it helps him catch up to you a little bit. And then he's just a normal M1 killer, so he's very basic. You know, all of his mechanics are the same, except when he's cloaked, he moves very quickly. He moves at 150% speed, so he can hit you, cloak, catch up, uncloak, speed up, hit you again. So there's a very interesting way of playing against the Wraith. Also, flashlights. If you shine a flashlight at the body of a Wraith while he's cloaked, or while he's in the process of uncloaking, it'll light burn him if you shine the flashlight on him for long enough. And that stuns him for like a really, really long time and forces him out of cloak. His add-ons are kind of strong, I'll show you them. Custom Clapper makes it silent. This one makes him able to see gen progress at any given time when he's cloaked, so he can see which ones are being repaired, which is really strong. And this one lets him see through walls when he's cloaked, or see R's through walls when he's cloaked, so that's also pretty ridiculous. Harry used that against me one time. He destroyed me with it. Hillbilly, also very simple. He's got a chainsaw. Basically, he holds down the power button and revs the chainsaw. Once it's fully revved, he breaks into a sprint and runs straight. He can turn a little bit, but not very much. So he can go around obstacles. He can pretty much go through the whole map until he hits a wall or uses the attack button to stop. But if he revs for too long, his chainsaw will overheat. And that will make it so you can't use it for a while. The chainsaw does insta-down if it hits you. Another thing about the chainsaw is what they'll sometimes do is they'll run up to you, get on your back, and start revving it, because they're actually very slow when they're revving. They're like 80-something% speed when they're revving, but then obviously they'll catch up. So they want to get right on your back and start revving, so at the time when it's fully revved, you're still basically right in front of them. They can just run a short distance and hit you. So you don't want to move in a super straight line against the hillbilly. You want to break line of sight to play against him, so he can't, rush rush into you and sit on you. And also, the chainsaw insta-breaks pallets, and if he's running the low pro chains, he can go straight through pallets and still hit you, but if he hits you after going through a pallet, it only does 1 health, so it doesn't list down. So, keep that in mind if you see him go straight through a pallet. That's pretty much it for the hillbilly, to be honest. Very straightforward. But he can, it's hard to do, and it's something we're probably not going to encounter, but he can, at the very beginning of the sprint, do a quick 90-degree turn, which is really useful in the loops. So maybe watch out for that, but we're not very advanced, so probably not good enough to do any of that. Next, the nurse. Very strong killer, probably the best in the game. Very hard to play, though. Reason for that, her power is Spencer's last breath, basically. She gets the blink ability, which is her ability to, charge up a blink, and then she shoots forward at a very fast speed, and goes through walls and everything, and it's pretty crazy. But after she does it, she kind of goes, huh. And if she doesn't hit anyone, or even if she does, actually every time she uses it, after performing an action or after waiting a certain amount of time, she'll go, huh, and she's stunned for a little bit, looks down at the ground, so you can kind of maybe do a little fancy running away, and she won't be able to find you, but yeah, you can do that. And that fatigue is longer whether she does 1 blink or 2. She can do 2, or if she does 1 blink and an attack, or 2 blinks and an attack, it'll also get longer. So she can do 1 blink, do an attack, do 1 blink, do a lunge attack, do 2 blinks, do an attack, 2 blinks, do a lunge attack, and her fatigue will be different based on that. Counterplay, it's really hard because she ignores pallets because she can just go straight through them. She ignores windows, ignores breakable walls. She can go up and down floors without actually having to walk upstairs. So she's very strong. But there's different things you can do. You can light burn her while she's charging the ability, but that pretty much never happens. You can also, while she's charging, right? She can't decrease the charge. So if she's charged it up to max, she has to go the max distance pretty much, unless she looks straight down, and then she'll just stay in one spot. But she'll still it'll take a certain amount of time for her to go that full distance, right? It'll take that same amount of time that it would take her to go that full distance, but she'll just do it in place. So you'll still have time to kind of get away, and then she'll probably go into fatigue unless she uses your second blink. So what you can do is, if she's fully charged and she's looking at you, just turn around and run straight at her, and she'll blink straight past you, and you'll be able to run away. Also try breaking line of sight, so she has to predict where you are rather than knowing exactly where you are, so she'll be disoriented. And you can do some mind gamey stuff with that as well. But she's really strong, really hard to play against, and even a bad nurse can get 2-3 kills on a team that isn't playing very well. Onto the Huntress, strong killer as well. Something I forgot to mention about the nurse, actually. 3.8 meters per second. That is 95% speed. She's actually slower. So if she doesn't use her blink, she'll actually never catch up to you on a loop. Keeping an eye on time. I have a meeting in an hour. So I may have to pause this. Yeah, so just keep that in mind. You can loop her forever and make distance on her if she's not using blocks. Huntress. So the way the Huntress, Jesus Christ, what the fuck did I just do? All right, the Huntress, the way she works. She has hatchets. She winds up, has a quick wind up, and then after that wind up, she can throw. When she throws the hatchet, the longer she's held it, it'll go farther, but it moves in an arc. Has a very big hitbox. It's a spherical hitbox, actually. It's not a hatchet-shaped hitbox. So it'll hit you over weird things. It can hit you when you're already behind a wall. It's kind of weird. She's very good because when the hatchet hits you, it deals a full health state of damage. So you obviously don't want to run in a straight line against her. You want to break lines of sight. She's also a 110% movement speed killer, so she's a little slow. She's not as good on loops. But she again can throw over loops a lot of times, throw over pallets. If you jump through a window, she'll probably try to predict if you're going to go through the window, wind up, and you hop through the window and she throws it and it hits you. Same for a pallet. If you drop a pallet, she'll just hit you while you're dropping the pallet. So you gotta kind of be smart with those kinds of plays. Once she's thrown her 5 by default hatchets or however many she has, add-ons can change that, decrease it or increase it. She has to go reload at a locker. So she'll often run the perk Iron Maiden to make that faster. She's 24 meter terror radius, but she's a really big, like, unique terror radius. That's a lullaby, which is actually far bigger than 24 meters. So you'll hear that before you actually, hear her real terror radius where your heart starts beating. But the lullaby is harder to determine the direction she's coming from, so it's a bit of a trade-off, and that's kind of the theme in a lot of ways for a lot of the range killers. Her and Trickster, I guess. Anyway. She has this add-on called the Iridescent Head that can instant you. She has this add-on which can exhaust you. This one makes you undetectable after searching lockers. So just be aware of all those things, and play around them if you notice them. It's fairly simple to play against her, but again, like she's the kind of killer where she can make a lot of mistakes and then she, does one thing right and you take a health state of damage. So, and health states are huge. So she's very strong. Not as good as some of the other killers like Nurse, but she is very strong. Next is Myers. His ability's a little hard to explain. He's very weak, but with add-ons he can become one of the strongest. So I'll just put the strong ones up right now. So to deal with ability, he's undetectable to start out when he's in tier 1. Zero terror radius, 105% movement speed. Shorter lunge, but he can do this thing called stalking, which when you're in his line of sight, within a very far distance, like probably like 50 meters, he can press the stalk button and it highlights you, and it builds up progress towards the next tier. And once he hits that, if you're closer to him, it actually builds it up faster. Also, another thing, this is actually I'm not even gonna explain that because it's not worth it. We're not gonna use it. But you can dodge body blocks basically, by stalking very close to a person. So once he hits evil within 2, he can't get back to evil within 1. This increases his terror radius to 16 meters, makes him a normal 115% killer, speed killer. His faster vaults by slightly, I believe, and a faster base, larger lunge. And I think that's it for his buffs in Evo Within 2. But that's pretty much it. The fact that he has a terror radius is a thing, 60 meters rather than 0. But when he stalks, it goes down to 0, I believe. So then when you stalk an Evil Within 2, you'll go up to Evil Within 3 for a period of time, which makes everyone exposed. It lasts for 60 seconds without add-ons. That can be increased or potentially decreased. And once that's done, you go back to Evil Within 2, so you can never go back to Evil Within 1. So, some add-ons can affect that. This one increases how long it takes to get to Evil Within by 3 times, but it also makes Evil Within 3 last forever, which is insane. Which makes you constantly exposed. Best strategy against that, just don't heal, try to do gens as fast as possible, bring dead hard. Judith's Tombstone is also ridiculous. When you perform a basic attack, it slows you down, but when you perform a basic attack in Evil Within 3, close enough to a survivor, I think it's like 6 or 8 meters, not a lunge attack, a regular basic attack, it just straight up worries them. Just insta-kills them. It's honestly ridiculous. Absolutely crazy stuff, the way it works. And if you combine it with the one that makes you have infinite tier 3, it's just like, it's an instant win. Only counterplay is you get in a locker and force him to pull you out of the locker, because then he can't moor you. He has to hook you. But yeah, it's insane. I mean, it'll take 5 times as long to get into Evil Within 3 if you're running both of them, but once you get there, like, you're unstoppable. You don't lose. Unless you're doing really bad, but you shouldn't lose. And that's mostly it for Myers. You beat him by, just in general, by breaking sightlines so he can't stalk. Keep him in evil within 1 as long as possible. You know, if you're not hearing a terror radius after maybe 15 seconds at the beginning, 15-20 seconds at the beginning of the game, chances are it's a stealth killer. It could be Myers, so you need to be looking around at the beginning of the game, especially to make sure you're not getting stalked by a stealth killer. Alright, next is the Hag. The Hag also has, just like the Nurse, has some really strong capabilities to sort of break the game, but not as much. So her ability is the Blackened Catalyst, but really it's just she puts shit on the ground, and it makes you able to teleport. She puts these little triangle things on the ground that are hard to see. They can be destroyed by flashlights, flashbangs, blast mines, and firecrackers. Anything that emits light, basically. But basically when you run through them, it generates this copy of her, a phantasm that has a terror radius, a red stain, and it always turns to point and look at you. And if she's within 400 meters of that activated trap, she can press the teleport button and instantly teleport to that. There's no travel time. She's immediately there, basically, at that phantasm. She replaces the phantasm, and can immediately attack after she teleports, which is very strong. She sets up these webs, where she, you run into one trap, she teleports, she hits you. She's a 110 speed killer, so she's not very good on loops. But basically, like, she teleports, hits you, you run a little bit, you activate another trap, she teleports, hits you, you're down, she hooks you, she resets her traps, and goes back to it. She's one of the strongest killers in the game, probably the 4th strongest. Maybe the 5th. But she's very strong. So counterplay, you can crouch over the traps to not activate them, you can burn them with a flashlight. You can use your endurance from borrowed time after you get unhooked to just activate a bunch of them all at once, so she has to waste time activating them, or resetting them. And take advantage of how weak she is on loops. Like, if she starts setting a trap while you're looping her, just run away, because she's slow. Like, you'll be able to make it to another tile by the time that she, she realizes, oh shit, they ran away. That's pretty much it for Hag. She does have an add-on that makes her traps stealthy. You can activate them, but it doesn't create the phantasm, but she can still teleport to them. Just keep that in mind. The Doctor is really annoying. I'll bring this up so you can read it, because I might not explain it right, but basically he has 2 abilities. Shock Therapy and Static Blast. Shock Therapy creates... so you have these madness tiers when you're going to visit the Doctor, and basically, his Shock Therapy, he blasts you with this. He charges it up and blasts you in a straight line with it, and it's kind of like a cone in front of him, actually. When you get it, you get half a layer of madness. You scream, but it doesn't reveal your location. And what it also does is makes so that you can't drop pallets and you can't vault windows. That's something you have to keep in mind. So against this killer, you're going to want to jump through windows early. You're going to want to get drop pallets very early. Because if you're in a loop and you're looping him and he shocks you when you're about to try to drop a pallet and you can't drop it and he goes and hits you, like, I don't know, you got outplayed and you should have dropped that pallet earlier so he wouldn't have been able to shock you out of it. So dropping pallets early is one example of counterplay against the Doctor. Calm Spirit, the perk, actually counters him too, because what Static Blast does is it causes everyone in his terror radius to scream and gain 1 tier of madness, 1 full tier of madness. Yes, that's really strong. That's on a far longer cooldown. There's no cooldown for Shock Therapy. You can just do it over and over. But yeah, it makes you scream. But Calm Spirit stops you from screaming. So Calm Spirit counters that ability. It actually counters a lot of the Doctor, because in Madness 3 you also scream a lot, revealing your ability, your position a lot. So in Madness Tier 1, you scream once, reveal your position, and you can get a 33% chance of getting a Madness skill check where the skill check can appear anywhere on your screen or go backwards rather than forwards. That's really what that is. In Madness 2, you have a 66% of that, and also you can see these illusory doctors that appear in front of you and try to kind of jump scare you, but the doctor doesn't see those. But in Tier 3, the doctor sees the aura of those illusory doctors, so he knows exactly where you are, and you scream a bunch of times. 99% chance of Madness skill check, and you can't basically do any actions for the most part before you do a snap out of it thing where you kind of crouch down, you hold your head, you do a couple skill checks, and you go back to Tier 1, and then he has to bring you back up to Tier 3. So yeah, his whole thing is kind of control, and making you waste your time over having to snap out of it, gaining information by shocking you, but really you can outplay him because he's mostly an M1 killer. Like, just drop pallets early and you just loop him like normal. You loop him like normal, but you just have to drop pallets a little bit. That's really it. Regular killer, as you can see. Next, Cannibal. Very quick explanation. He's basically the same thing as the Hillbilly, but he doesn't sprint. He does this chainsaw sweep where he's like a little bit faster than normal, but he doesn't go really fast, like 150%. This sweep can down multiple people at once when the Hillbillies can only down one. So he's really good at camping. You know, you try to go for an exchange on the hook. He pulls out his chainsaw and just downs both of you. So he camps a lot. People who play him camp a lot anyway. So basically what it works is he activates the chainsaw sweep by revving it. So same thing with Hillbilly. But it goes for a little bit, and then at the end of it, if you press the ability button again, it extends the sweep. And you can do that twice, I think. Because he has 3 charges. They use the first one to start it, and you can do it 2 more times. If he hits any object or revs for too long, he goes into a tantrum, like the end of the movie, where he's like waving it all around and stuff. If you run into him all that, you can still get downed. But basically the way to counter this is stick tightly to loops, drop pallets early because he does break them immediately, but it slows him down. And the reason you want to stick to loops tightly is because if he hits a wall while he's in his chainsaw sweep, he goes into that tantrum and he's stuck in place for a while. Tantrum is longer if he has used more charges. If you go into a locker, he can bump into the locker and go into tantrum, and there's actually a very tight timing where you can exit the locker and knock it down by the tantrum and also not get grabbed out of the locker. But it's hard to do, and I don't know how to do it, so if you're going up against Bubba, just pray, because we're probably gonna lose. I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna think we're probably bad at playing against Bubba. Yeah, that's really it for him. He's very similar to the Hillbilly in a lot of ways, but in my opinion, he's stronger. Because he's easier. Nightmare. His ability. He has so many fucking abilities. I hate explaining it. Basically, you start the game, 60 seconds you're in the Dream Dimension. If you're not in the Dream Dimension, you can hear his terror radius. You see him within 60 meters intermittently between 32, so he'll kind of flicker, and outside of 32 meters you won't see him at all. In the dream world you always see him, but he has no terror radius. He has this weird like lullaby that shows up when he's nearby, but it's non-directional, so you don't know where he's coming from. He also can basic attack you to always put you in the dream world. Once you're in the dream world asleep, you'll see this white highlighted alarm clock, and you go to that and you do a little, it takes a little bit of time, but you wake up. The alarm clock goes off, you wake up. It takes longer to do that the second time, even longer the third, etc. You want to be awake, but you don't want to waste time because usually the alarm clock is on the other side of the map, so it's kind of a gamble. Like, do I go over there and wake up and be able to know where he is, or do I just not do it and suck it up? I usually just not do it. But yeah, you can also wake up other survivors or miss skill checks on purpose, which is a risk reward because you missed the skill check and it makes a lot of noise notifications, so he'll come to you, but you also are out of the dream world. So you can put down these dream snares that once you run through it, you're slowed down a lot, so he can control loops a lot by putting them down on one side of the loop. and while he's chasing you, you run through it, you slow down, and he hits you. He can also do dream pallets, which he puts up fake pallets in pallet locations, and he knows where these fake pallets are, but you don't. So when you drop them, it won't stun him, and it'll just kind of explode on the ground, and you're like, ah, shit, I just wasted time dropping that, because you have to do the little animation, and it'll probably catch up. He can also teleport to generators when it takes a while because he has to channel the ability for a while, but when he does it, blood will start coming out of it'll spurt out of the generator, so you have time to run. You can do this to like cut you off in the middle of a chase, which is actually interesting when it happens and it's fair play. I don't really like Freddy because he doesn't have much counterplay, to be honest. It's just like press and hold the W key and just run in a straight line away from him as far as you can. You know, drop a good pallet, keep running, like vault a window, keep running. Freddy's a bitch character, so that's pretty much all I'll say about Freddy. Pig, this is Kanai's main. Not a very strong killer, but good in the right hands. And the reason for that is because she has very good slowdown. Regular speed, regular tear radius, but she is a stealth killer because she can do this thing where she crouches. It takes 1.3 seconds to crouch. You crouch and you're undetectable. And while you're crouched, you can't do any basic attacks, but you can hold down the attack button and you'll growl and make a very loud growl noise, and then you get up and move at 150% speed. And if you collide with someone while you're in that ambush rush, it'll do 1 health state damage. So you can do some cool mind games on loops with that. Also her ability, the bear trap ability, once you're, she moves slower when she's crouched, but not by a lot. So, you know, pay attention, it'll be fun. Once you're down, she can put these bear traps on you. She has 4 of them by default. And once the generator's completed this bear trap, the reverse bear trap's active. If the timer counts down, you die. There are these 4 jigsaw boxes on the map that you can go through, and you do a little search to see if that's the right one that'll get the reverse bear trap off. On average, it's coded that on average it'll take 3 searches to get it off, so that wastes a lot of time. Counterplay. Tell your teammates to 99 generators until you get the trap off your head. Once you get the trap off, boom, they finish, you know, 3 generators suddenly pop, and the pig is left wondering what the hell just happened. Oh yeah, she has these ridiculous add-ons that make it so that she has the highest kill rate in the game. This and this. Creative Gears takes longer to search by a long freaking time. So your time will count down even more while you're searching, and this one just decreases the timer. So you have less time to work with. So it ends up with a lot of RNG based kills that are kind of bullshit, but Dead by Daylight. So yeah, that's pretty much the pig in a nutshell. Counterplay, just be alert so you know when she's crouching around. If you hear the growl, be mindful because you can switch directions pretty quickly during the ambush. You're probably going to get hit if she's ambushing, to be honest, because she'll only do it if she knows that she can get the hit off. And when you have a bear trap on your head, just communicate with your team. She has some weird add-ons that, you know, this one makes you, you know, see auras, but it decreases your bear trap. This one starts people with bear traps on their head. Where's the one? This one makes it so that you can't see jigsaw boxes unless your trap's already activated, so you can't get it off, so you can't do the 99 strat for the most part. So that's kind of annoying. The clown, very basic killer. He has these 4 bottles. He can throw them. When he throws them, it creates a cloud of either purple or yellow mist. He can switch between them. The purple one slows survivors down, makes them scream, makes them cough, and it also makes their vision blurry. He does not get those effects. When he throws the yellow one, it speeds anyone who runs through it up, so survivors or killers. And once he throws the 4 bottles, he has to reload. 4 by default. He can change that with add-ons. Once he throws the 4 bottles, he has to reload. That takes 3 seconds. He has add-ons, though, that are super stupid. Is this the one? Yeah. If he hits you with his bottle, it makes you exposed. He can down you, which is ridiculous. And And this one, aura reveals anytime he hits you with a mist, which is not as strong as this one. This one's ridiculous. But otherwise, he's a pretty weak killer. Counterplay, just W key. Play loops mostly normally. He's good at controlling loops. So you're going to want to run as far as you can until you have to play a loop, and then just play the loop normally until you get hit, and then start running again. Alright, we're about a little over halfway done. I don't know how long I've been recording for, but it's probably been a bit. Can I see? Yeah, 30 minutes, Jesus. Spirit. Okay, Spirit's a bit of a complex killer. Okay, it's almost 2:30, right? Okay. I have a meeting in about 30 minutes, so I gotta get off in a sec. Spirit, basically the way she works is she's a 110% killer, so she's not as good on loops, but she makes up for that 24-meter terror radius as well. So she might run Monitor and Abuse, which is a perk that makes her have 16-meter terror radius when she's not in chase, which is pretty crazy. But she makes up for her bad looping ability with her ability called Yamaoka's Haunting. Basically, she charges this up, and after she's done charging it up, all survivors disappear. She cannot see them. She can see their scratch marks though, and she can hear them. And she can see when they move things in the environment like grass or corn. So she also moves at like 150% speed, and she leaves this like husk behind that stands still and looks like her. Like it emits a red stain, has a terror radius and everything. But if you start phasing within 24 meters of a survivor, the survivor will hear this sound that makes it obvious that you're phasing. But what you can do is you can stand still on a pallet and make it look like you're about to charge your ability. And it might make them vault the pallet, or like drop the pallet when they shouldn't, or like vault a window when they shouldn't, straight into you, and you just hit them. Because the husk looks just like you, so you can just pretend that you're about to channel your ability. And you can mind game things just by standing still, which is really strong. Also, the fact that she moves really fast is really strong. She's really fast. She often runs things called perks like Strider, which make you breathe louder. Perks like Sloppy Butcher, which make it harder to heal because your injured noises are louder. Iron Will counters that though. But yeah, Spirit's probably the second strongest killer after Nurse. I think that's all I have to say about it. That was a pretty fast explanation. I may have missed something. She also has some crazy add-ons, like the Mother-Daughter Ring makes her insanely fast while she's phasing, but it removes her ability to see scratch marks. But there's another add-on that makes it that anytime she's near a survivor, they're revealed by Killer Instinct, which is like sort of like aura reading when she's phasing, when she's 4 meters. They're revealed by Killer Instinct. What's this add-on? Within 4 meters, you're revealed by Killer Instinct, which is basically like this like sort of heartbeat effect that reveals where you are, but it doesn't show if you're sprinting, crouching, vaulting, doing an action like healing. It just shows where you are. So it's not really an aura read, it's like a weaker aura read. And speaking of that, someone who uses that a lot is the Legion. Legion's ability, Pharaoh Frenzy. So Legion's basically a normal killer, really cool terror radius music. So his ability is he goes into something called Feral Frenzy. What does that mean? So that is when he activates his ability. It has a timer that starts counting down. It's a really long time. I swear it's like 20 seconds. It's pretty long. And he goes into a very fast sprint. Moves at like 5 point something meters per second. I want to say it's like 5.2. And when he hits a survivor in this, it injures them as well as puts them in the deep wound state, which is once they're not running, every time they're standing still, like if you're doing something repairing, it counts down. It's a 20-second counter. And if it counts all the way down without you performing the mend action, the timer's paused while you mend, you die. or you go down. I think you just go down. But the thing is, once you're in Deep Wound through his Feral Frenzy, you cannot, he cannot down you in Feral Frenzy for the most part. I'll explain that in a sec. So, if he hits you again, he gets stunned for a bit and you get a speed boost and he loses his power, and so he just doesn't do that. But after he hits you, other people that he hasn't put into Deep Wound yet, are revealed in his terror radius. If they're in his terror radius, they're revealed through Killer Instinct. So he just runs to them. He gets a little. He actually gets an increasing speed, so 5.2 meters per second at first. Then he hits you. It's probably like 5.4 or something. After that, and then after every consecutive hit, it adds like 0.2, which is a lot. In Dead by Daylight. He can also vault pallets and windows while in Feral Frenzy. And if he inflicts the Deep Wound on 4 people, all 4 survivors during his Feral Frenzy, the next person that he hits will go down in Feral Frenzy. But that's really hard to do. Counterplay against Legion is just spread out. You don't really want to heal very much against Legion, and the reason for that is because he can just injure you again very easily. His ability is intended for that. You can bring like Circle Healing to heal on your own time medkits, but don't waste each other's time by healing each other, if you know what I mean. Because that's a lot of time that you spend not doing gens, and then he just pulls up and injures you again, and then what? You just wasted 30 seconds. So yeah, this very basic killer, but has potential to be pretty strong. He's actually not one of the better killers in the game, to be honest. Because his abilities centered around entering people but not downing them. When he's actually chasing, he's just a regular M1 killer and can be looped pretty easily. Is that it? Yeah. Okay. I think. Oh, also, you can actually tell what add-ons he has on depending on the music or his terror radius, because they're mixtapes. One of his add-ons, by the way, is called the Iridescent Button, and it makes it so he breaks pallets when he vaults them, which is really strong, so just watch out for that. Also, you can pallet stun him out of his ability by dropping pallets on him. Yes, that's it. Okay. Plague 1 has one of the best perks in the game, probably the best killer perk, to be honest, is Corrupt Intervention. Also, I just wanted to point that out just because it's so strong. And if we're playing Kill Your Friends, like, not randomized, you'll probably see that a lot, Corrupt Intervention. So, just so you know. Vile Purge is her ability. So what it is she can charge up puke, basically, and the more she charges it, the more she can puke at a time. It slows her down a lot while she's charging it, but let me check my inbox real quick. All good. Yeah, so when she pukes on you, you get infected. When she pukes on, like, a generator or a hook or a vault location or a pallet, and you interact with any of those things, you also get infected. And once you get infected, a timer starts. Once the timer fills, you are injured and broken. So you can't heal with a medkit or heal each other or anything like that. The only way to heal is to go to these fountains around the map. Also, if she pukes on you more, it fills more of the timer, the gauge. It'll show up around your character model, on the your character's picture on the left side. The only way to heal is to go to these fountains that are around the map. You drink from them, and it not only does it uninfect you, but it also heals you, fully heals you, back up to the healthy state. That said, though, there's a trade-off. When you heal, it also turns that fountain red, and when it's red, she can go up to it, drink from it, and then her puke, instead of infecting you, will deal health state damage. So it's a very big trade-off. She can snowball very quickly by getting everyone infected, and then because the map always spawns with one red fountain by default without you even cleansing at all, or healing at all, she can get all of you down pretty quickly if you don't cleanse at some point. So you really do need to cleanse eventually, but you want to be strategic with it. you know, cleanse far away, cleanse in an area we've already done gens, so you're not going to be there. That sort of thing. That's pretty much the only counterplay for Plague. Also, break line of sight so she can't puke on you. Also, if you're doing a gen and you're infected and someone else gets on your gen, you will infect that other person, so you kind of need to spread out a lot when you're playing against Plague. But, she's also tall, so you see her over loops pretty easily. Also allows her to, her puke goes through like every hole too. Pause. So if you like shoot it through the, she can shoot it through like the boarded up shack windows and stuff. Pause. Yeah, a lot of different things going on with the Plague, but that's pretty much her in a nutshell. Oh, also, no, I'm not even gonna explain that. I may talk about that next time we get on, just if someone's playing Plague just for fun. But she's an interesting interaction with Devour Hope. Alright. Actually, I'm going to pause the recording here real quick. And I will get back to you once I'm done my video call. Alright, so I believe we left off with the ghost phase. We hadn't touched the ghost phase yet, so his whole thing is that he's a stealth killer, kind of similar to Myers, but he works a little differently. Whereas Myers stalks to move up tiers, Ghost and eventually get everyone exposed. Ghostface exposes people individually, and can choose when he's undetectable, for the most part. So Ghostface basically, he can go into Night Shroud by using his ability key, and that is basically this big cloud of smoke comes out of him and he goes undetectable, and you know, he has all the attributes that go along with that. No aura, no red stain, no terror radius, and when he's in Night Shroud, he can do all the normal stuff that a normal 115 killer can do. But he's also able to crouch. He can do that in and out of Night Shroud. But additionally, something that he can only do in Night Shroud is he can stalk people. He can stalk the same way as Myers just by looking at him, but he can also, if he's close to an object, he can lean off of that object, and that will actually increase the stalking speed. But the thing about him is, when he stalks an individual, he is stalking that person. A gauge will fill around their character image on the left side. Only the Ghostface sees this at first. The gauge will fill, and once it goes full, it'll go red. The survivor will then see that they will also see that red thing around it. They don't see the gauge filling, but they see the red. And that means that survivor is exposed, which means that the Ghostface obviously can insta-down them. Pretty simple ability. Something you can do to, as it says on the right here, you can reveal the Ghostface by looking at him for a certain amount of time when 30% of his, or 33% of his body is showing. It is visible, and that'll take him out of Night Shroud. He can't stalk you anymore. But it also reveals you with Killer Instinct, so, which actually is impactful. Usually Killer Instinct is not impactful, like on characters like Nemesis, it's not very impactful. But on Ghostface it's impactful because usually I don't know where I'm getting, well, not usually, but sometimes I'm not, it's not obvious where I'm getting revealed from, and then I find where a survivor's hiding and staring at me from, because of the Killer Instinct. So it's actually pretty big, so you gotta be aware of that as a survivor. Something that the Ghostface will usually do is he'll 99 you, which means that he stalks you, so your gauge is filled to 99. He'll probably walk away, go stalk some more people, and then come back. And once he comes back to you, he then enters Night Shroud very quickly, stalks you the full way, and then slaps you and insta-downs you. Because you'll be exposed. He only has to do that 1% more of stalking, which takes a fraction of a second. Um, a way to counter this is to actually get into chase with him. Once if you see him stalking you, reveal him and kind of bait him into chasing. And he's not a particularly strong chaser. He's a 115 killer, but he's just an M1 killer because his ability doesn't help him in chase very much. He can do some mind gamey stuff like the pig on loops, but really he's not a particularly strong killer on chases. And the reason it's good to bait him into chasing is because sorry. If he attacks you with a basic attack, after stalking you, your stalk gauge goes to 0. Like, you get injured, of course, but stalk gauge goes to 0. So he can't come back to you and expose you and sit down you and snowball off that. So that's something you can do with him. That's pretty much all I have to say about Ghostface. Similar thing with Myers. Like, if you're not hearing a terror radius early in the game, look around, try to see if you can see someone crouching or leaning around a corner staring at you, because it's probably a stealth killer if you haven't heard terror radius for too long. Now, onto the Oni. The Oni is a pretty fun killer, pretty cool. Very slow early game, but he really snowballs pretty quickly, and he's very strong. And the reason for that is because of his ability. So, at the beginning of the game, he's just a normal M1 killer. He can't really do anything except for attack with M1. That's what that means. But once he lands his first attack, he injures you, of course, and he gets about half of his ability gauge filled, I'm pretty sure. Maybe a little bit more. And then the injured person starts dropping blood orbs. They drop it when they run. They drop it when they vault pallets. They drop it when they drop pallets. They drop it when they vault windows. They drop it when they do pretty much anything. And they're constantly going to be dropping those blood orbs. Now, the Oni can't see those blood orbs through walls unless he's in very close proximity to them, so don't really worry too much about getting revealed by them. Although it can happen. He's very close by. But don't worry too much about that. So, he can collect those blood orbs because when he's not in his, he doesn't have his power charge, he's in what's commonly called absorption mode, and he can absorb the blood orbs from a short distance, and then charges his ability. Once it's full, you'll hear a map-wide sound that's like, okay, he's ready to use his ability. Then when he does use his ability, you'll hear this incredibly loud roar that goes through the entire map. He starts glowing red, so you can't miss him. Like, he's certainly not a stealthy killer. He's probably the least stealthy killer in the game, over Plague. He gains some new abilities once he enters Blood Fury. He can do what's called a demon dash by holding down the ability button for a little second, and then he starts dashing forward really fast. What that does is makes him able to traverse the map very quickly and also chase very easily. But he can only really move straight. He can curve a little bit. It's a little bit better curving than the hillbilly, but he can't turn very much. And when he attacks during a demon dash, if it's a lunge attack, it has to be a lunge attack. But it's not exactly hard to pull it off. You just hold it down for half a fraction of a second longer than you'd normally. And when he does a lunge attack, he in his demon dash, he can actually turn up to, I think, 90 degrees, but it's hard to do. And that's an insta down. He can also insta down at pretty much at any time during his Blood Fury, but it also has to be a lunge attack, and he gets an extended lunge. So basically his ability is he can insta down. Also, he can break pallets and breakable walls very quickly when in Blood Fury. Probably, I think it's in one hit. I'm not sure about breakable walls, but I know it's pallets in one hit. So yeah, he becomes very destructive. Here's the thing though, when he misses an attack, it drains his gauge a little bit. When he lands an attack, it drains his gauge a lot. And when he picks a survivor up, I believe it ends Blood Fury. So it's just important to know when he's going to be missing, or when he's going to be losing his ability, or when he's going to feel pressured to, get those attacks in because it's about to run out. A good way to dodge him, believe it or not, is just to wait for him to get really close and then just 180. Get behind him, like kind of like spin him, because he can only turn so much while he's in Demon Dash. You know, play tight loops, because he can't really get around them super well in Demon Dash. I don't really know if you should drop pallets early. But if he starts demon dashing towards you and you're like camming a pallet, which don't do that. But if you are, drop it early. Because he'll quickly probably 90 degree and hit you. And I think that's really it about Oni's ability. It's pretty strong. He's actually very strong, but he just has a very slow early game and snowballs later on. Deathslinger. I think Deathslinger is an incredibly balanced killer. He used to be really overpowered, but I don't think he is anymore. So his ability is the Redeemer. It's a spear gun that he uses to reel people in, and attack them. So the spear gun itself doesn't do damage, I don't think. Yeah, it doesn't necessarily do damage. On hit anyway. But it inevitably will. So basically how it works. Well, not inevitably, but for the most part. Anyway. Lost my train of thought. So, he has to aim down sights to start the ability, and you'll be able to see him. It shows on his model aiming down sights. It's not a very fast animation. Like, think like the slowest, like, Call of Duty sniper rifle aim down sights animation. And it's about that fast. And he can't shoot before that that animation's done. Once he does shoot, if he lands his attack or if he misses, he's gonna have to reload regardless. The reload takes probably around 1 second, slows him down a little bit. He has add-ons that can speed it up though. Now, once he uses his ability, if he does hit a survivor, it'll stop them in their tracks, and he'll start pulling them towards him by reeling them in with the spear. They can use their movement key or their joystick to resist the chain's pull, and that will if it takes too long to reel them in, it will break the chain. He'll get stunned for a bit, and they can run away with no penalty. No, they do actually get a penalty. That's wrong. I believe if they break out like that, they get injured and deep wounded. So, you know, if you're getting speared, it's probably a bad thing regardless. That said, though, once if the Deathslinger pulls you in, at any point he can break the chain by performing a basic or performing a basic attack, lunge or otherwise. And if he breaks the chain on his own, I don't think you get injured, assuming he doesn't hit you. What's common for a lot of Deathslingers, this is what I do, and by the way, the Deathslinger can shoot through like his spear hitbox is small, like very small, so it's easy to dodge. So counterplay, don't run in a straight line, but it's also small, so you can shoot it through very small gaps. So he might shoot you over a loop and then walk around the loop in order to get to you, and then do a lunge attack and hit you. Also, something they might do is hit you once, and then you use the spear gun on the like you try to perform a normal base attack once, and then use the spear gun to get to land the second hit. So they don't have to hit you once. You get the speed boost, you run away, and then they also have to reload to come and get you. So they usually won't use the spear gun. From my experience, they won't use the spear gun on the first hit, though you probably use it on the second, unless they're on a really, unfavorable map like the game, where they're gonna have to really rely on that gun. Another thing you can do is if you get obstacles or other survivors in between you and the slinger and the chain, because the chain can go through walls and survivors. So if the chain is like going through a survivor is kind of between you, or an obstacle is, it will increase the speed at which you break the chain and stun him and get away. So you're gonna try to put stuff between you and the Death Slinger when you haven't been speared and when you have been speared. So yeah, just keep that in mind when going against the Death Slinger. Don't run a straight line. Try to be unpredictable, and you should do okay. He is a strong killer. I think he's on the higher end. He's close to the middle though. Very balanced. So, oh yeah, and he's a 4.4 meter killer to kind of compensate for that range, and he has a regular tear radius, unlike all the other 4.4 meter tear radius or 4.4 speed people. Because he'd be way too strong if he could sneak up on you. He used to have 24 meter, and you could use monitor, and he used to have a 16, and then he was just too strong. And he didn't have ADS speed either. He also, by the way, just something to know, if he's aiming down sights and he's right next to you, he can't immediately transition into a basic attack. He has to put his gun down first before he can attack. Same theme for the Executioner. When the Executioner is has his ability activated, he can't transition directly into an attack, and I'll explain that. So, Pyramid Head. First thing, he can stick his sword into the ground, and this gives him 2 abilities. When his sword's in the ground, anywhere he walks creates a trail, and if you run or walk over that trail, you get tormented. If you crouch over it, you don't. Getting tormented reveals you by Killer Instinct at any range. Additionally, if he has a sword in the ground, he can use the basic attack button to basically shoot out a ranged attack in front of him that creates like a wave of spikes that does health state damage. You can avoid it though, because it's not instant. It's not like a hit scan thing. It is a wave, as I said. The trail appears on the ground. It like you kind of it shows like an outline on the ground first, where it's gonna hit, and then very quickly after that outline appears, the wave starts. So you can dodge it, and if you move unpredictably, he'll miss you a lot and waste a lot of time. Now to discuss the torment. You want to avoid getting tormented as much as possible. So believe it or not, well, I mean, of course you're going to believe it again, but the perk Urban Evasion, which makes you really fast while you crouch, is actually really strong against the Executioner, and the reason for that is because crouching is the only way to go over a trail and avoid getting tormented, and that perk makes you faster crouching. So basically, the reason you want to avoid being tormented, there's a lot of reasons. Being tormented allows the Executioner to avoid most of the best perks in the entire game. Why is that? Because when you're tormented, the Pyramid Head, when he downs you, he can send you to a Cage of Atonement, which appears at pretty much the farthest location possible from the killer on the map, and he does not see where this cage is, unless he's running a certain add-on that kind of breaks the game by showing you where the cage is. But when you remove a survivor from the cage, it's not considered an unhook. Like, getting put in the cage is considered a hook, like as far as hook states are concerned, but getting taken out of it is not considered an unhook. So borrowed time doesn't work. Additionally, if you have Decisive Strike active and he sends you to a Cage of Atonement, you don't get a chance to use Decisive Strike. So you also can avoid Decisive Strike. Additionally, he can avoid Decisive Strike in another way. If you're down on the ground and he thinks you might have Decisive, but you're tormented and you've already been hooked twice or reached the second hook state, he can Mori you, and it's a very fast Mori. So he doesn't waste any time waiting out the Decisive Strike. He just Moris you straight away and you're dead, which obviously bypasses Decisive because he never puts you on his shoulder. Pyramid Head, very strong killer, kind of breaks the rules of the game in a while, but also I'd say he's fairly balanced because he has a good amount of counterplay, like move unpredictably, crouch over the Trail of Torment or whatever the hell it's called, and for the most part you should be okay. He's one killer that you have to kind of think a lot more about how to play it, but he's also harder to play because you also have to put a lot of thought into where you put your trails and stuff. So also, if the thing about the trails, something else that balances it, you can't put it in most of the basement. You can't put it down there, and you can't put it too close to hooks. So it prevents you from like forcing torment on hooks, which is good.